You've probably been told your whole life that having all the answers is the secret to success. But what if I told you the most powerful strategic tool you have isn't what you know, but what you know you don't know? Today, we're going to talk about how admitting you have gaps in your knowledge isn't a weakness, it's actually a superpower.
Right. You've probably heard this quote before. It's from former Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld. And let's be honest, it sounds a little like a riddle, doesn't it? It feels like a real tongue twister. But inside this baffling phrase is an incredibly useful framework for making sense of the world. So we're going to unpack it and turn it into a practical tool that you can actually use. So first up, we need a map. We're going to break down this whole idea into a simple framework that helps us understand the different territories of what we know, and more importantly, what we don't.
Okay, so this is the core idea. A known unknown isn't just you being clueless. No, it's a conscious, managed form of ignorance. Think about it like this. Maybe you're launching a new product. You might say, okay, the single biggest risk to our launch is how our competitor will react. We know that's the key variable, but we just don't know what their new pricing will be. Boom, you've just identified and named a known unknown. And that's the first huge step.
Now, this is a fantastic way to visualize this. It's called the Johari window. That open area in red, that's your known knowns, stuff you and everyone else are aware of. But the tricky parts are the other boxes. A known unknown might be something you're aware of but others aren't, that green hidden area. Or even scarier, it's in that yellow blind area, a risk that everyone else can see but you can't. The whole game is to ask questions and move as much as you can out into the open, shrinking that big blue unknown box.
Now, it is so important not to confuse a known unknown with what's called a black swan event. A market crash? That's a known unknown. We know for sure that it's going to happen again eventually, we just don't know precisely when. But the invention of the internet, that was a total black swan. Nobody saw that coming. Understanding that difference is crucial because it stops us from wasting energy trying to predict the completely unpredictable and helps us focus on being resilient instead.
So if it's so incredibly useful to identify what we don't know, why is it so hard for us to do? Well, that brings us to our own brains. In this next part, we're going to explore the psychological roadblocks that make us absolutely terrified of admitting we have gaps in our knowledge. Seriously, just think about it for a second. When was the last time you were in a big meeting and someone just confidently and calmly said, you know what, I don't have the answer to that? It almost never happens, right? We're afraid it'll make us look weak or like we don't know what we're doing. But there's a powerful cognitive bias that's usually the real villain here.
And here it is, the Dunning-Kruger effect. This is basically the psychological bad guy in our story today. It's this bizarre glitch in our thinking where the people who are the least competent at something are often the most confident in their abilities. Why? Well, because they lack the very self-awareness needed to see how much they don't know. It literally hides our own blind spots from us.
So what's the cure? Well, it's something called intellectual humility. This is maybe the most essential trait for anyone trying to navigate an uncertain world. It's all about shifting your priority from being right to getting it right. When a leader has the courage to say, I don't know, let's go find out, it sends a powerful message. It gives the entire team permission to be curious, to spot risks, and to ask the really hard questions.
Okay, so we've mapped the territory, we've faced our own psychological dragons, now it's time for the really practical stuff. We're going to open up a toolkit full of concrete, real-world strategies you can use to start managing all this uncertainty.
This is how you respond to a known unknown. It's a simple but incredibly powerful three-step process called contingency planning. Step 1, you identify a specific way things could go wrong. Step 2, you create a dead simple if this happens, then we do that plan. And step 3, by doing that, you build a kind of mental shortcut. It's a pre-approved game plan that lets your team skip the panic mode and just act quickly and decisively the moment that if becomes a reality. And here is the classic tool for that first step. It's a risk matrix. Super simple, but so effective. You just plot all your known unknowns on this chart. On the vertical axis, you have how likely it is to happen. On the horizontal, you have how bad it would be if it did. Suddenly, that big, scary cloud of anxiety becomes a clear, color-coded action plan. That red zone in the top right, that's where you focus first. Those are the big ones. Okay, once you know what to worry about, you need a strategy. And here's the key insight. A lot of the time, you're not trying to reduce the likelihood of the bad thing happening because you kind of assume it might. Instead, you focus on reducing the impact. Think about it. Having 2 suppliers for a critical component, building backup generators into the power grid, or just plain buying insurance. You're not trying to prevent the fire,
You're just making sure the sprinklers are installed and ready to go.
So why does all this matter so much? Because doing this work helps us fight another one of our brain's most common errors, the planning fallacy. This is our natural, deeply human tendency to assume that the best-case scenario is the most likely one. It's why almost every big project goes over budget and over time. Acknowledging those known unknowns forces a dose of reality right into the heart of your plan.
All right, for this last section, I want to completely flip the script on this whole idea. What if these known unknowns aren't just threats we need to manage? What if there's something way more exciting? What if they are actually the raw fuel for discovery and innovation?
Let's talk about the zone of known ignorance. This is where things get really cool. This is the frontier. It's the edge of the map where the old cartographers used to write, "Here be dragons." It's that thrilling space where what we know ends and where the biggest, riskiest, and most rewarding breakthroughs are just waiting to be found. It's the natural habitat of curiosity.
And this isn't some fantasy land. It's a real place. In fact, it's the primary playground for some of the most innovative organizations in the world. Think about groups like DARPA, the people who helped invent the internet, or Google X, their moonshot factory. These places don't exist to make what we already have a little bit better. Their entire mission is to take on a list of giant known unknowns like, can we build a self-driving car, and systematically turn them into knowns.
So how do they actually do it? Well, it all starts by framing these gaps as big, open questions. The simple act of asking, how might we solve this, does a few amazing things. It focuses the brain, it stops us from jumping to the first easy answer, and it transforms a passive lack of knowledge into an active, exciting research mission. So, I'll leave you with this final thought. In your career, in your business, in your life, what is the single most important known unknown on your map? What's that one variable that you know is absolutely critical, but you just don't have the answer for yet? Because identifying it, naming it, that's the first step to either conquering it or turning it into your next great discovery.